Are you planning a trip to Italy and want to spend one day in Venice? Well, today we're going to tell you all you need to do to conquer Venice in one day. Andrea and I live in Italy, only about 2 hours away from Venice by car, and we visit this incredible city rather often,
In
actually.
fact, we just come back yesterday from a couple of days in Venice.
And it's for that reason we want to share our knowledge with you so that you can have a wonderful experience in Venice in one day. So without further ado, let's begin. Hi everyone, I'm Rick.
And I'm Andrea, and today we'll tell you all you need to know about visiting Venice in one day. But first, if you like travel-related videos like this one, now it's a great time to hit the subscribe button down below so you'll never miss any future videos.
Right.
Also, while you're there, what about sharing this video on your social media? Maybe some of your friends will like it too, you never know.
Yep, maybe they want to come and see Italy too, or maybe even visit us, right?
Exactly. Why not?
Okay. All right, so why don't we begin?
So let's begin our video with some general consideration. So before we begin, we will have to warn you, one day is not nearly enough to see all of Venice. In fact, if you truly want to experience this magical city, you will need at least 3 or 4 days. But to get a general idea, one day will do. If you only have one day in Venice, try to arrive as early as possible in the morning to avoid the crowd, and leave late in the evening, so you will be able to see the city at night, when it becomes even more magical.
Yeah, we can't stress that enough.
Absolutely. Also, if you can, avoid visiting on weekends, because they tend to be extremely busy, especially in the summer during cruise season. So, maybe come Monday to Friday, and then leave on Friday night.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on to our next topic about visiting Venice for a day, and we'll talk about how to get to Venice. Venice is located in the northeast part of Italy, and it's the capital of the Veneto region.
Yes.
The city is located in the Venetian lagoon, and it's built on many islands in the lagoon, and many of them are connected by bridges.
Yes.
Now, there are 3 main ways to reach Venice. You can get there by plane, by train, and by car or bus. Now, if you arrive by plane, the main airport in Venice is called Marco Polo, and it's located on the mainland, and it's connected to the city by a water bus called the Ali Laguna. To get from Marco Polo Airport to San Marco Square, or St. Mark's Square, by the Ali Laguna, it'll take you about 1 hour and 10 minutes. Water taxis are also available from the airport to the city center, but they're a bit costly, around 140 euros one way at the time of the recording, even though they're very convenient. It's a very convenient way to reach the city center. Lastly, from the airport, you can also take a regular taxi that will take you, to the only area of Venice's city center that you can reach by car, and that's Piazzale Roma. From there, you can make your way onto the main attractions by foot, or more on that a little later, let's say.
Absolutely.
Now, if you arrive in Venice from any other Italian city, chances are you're going to arrive by train. Now, if you arrive by train, you have to keep in mind that one very important thing about Venice. Venice has 2 main train stations. Venezia Mestre, that's on the mainland, and it's quite far from the historic city center of Venice. And the other is Venezia Santa Lucia, and that one is located right on the Grand Canal in the city center. So, Santa Lucia station is the one you want to get off at if you're going to spend a day in Venice.
Absolutely. Lastly, if you arrive by car, you will end up at the Piazzale Roma, where you will find some huge multi-level parking lot. If you want to park your car in Venice, we strongly recommend you to book your parking in advance, because they tend to be sold out really quickly, especially in peak season.
I think everything sells out quickly in Venice.
Absolutely. So if you drive to Venice, book your garage in advance. Lastly, you might arrive in Venice on a cruise, and if you arrive by cruise, you will have to find out from the cruise line where your ship will dock and how to get to the city center. Most importantly, if your cruise port is Venezia Ravenna, that means that your ship will be docked in the port of Ravenna, located about 150 kilometers south of Venice, and they will arrange some sort of transfer to Venice city center by bus or any other means.
And we would recommend taking that excursion or that transfer.
Yeah. Now that we've covered how to get to Venice, we will move to our next topic about visiting Venice for one day, and we'll talk about how to get around Venice Historic City Center. Venice Historical City Center is quite walkable, and it is possible to walk pretty much everywhere. However, there are a couple of things that to keep in mind if you decide to walk. First thing to consider is that Venice has 417 bridges, and most of them have steps. For this reason, if you have difficulties walking up or down the stair, walking might not be the best choice for you. Second, Venice is a little bit of a labyrinth of small streets and larger ones. And the streets are called calle in Venice. Getting lost in Venice is quite easy and incredibly fun to do. However, if you only have one day to visit the city, you don't want to waste any time going back and forth in these little streets.
Or getting lost, right?
Absolutely. Also, due to the fact that some calles are really narrow, even Google Maps or Apple Maps do not work well in Venice. Fortunately, there are plenty of signs everywhere for the major landmarks. So just follow the signs and you will be fine and you will reach the landmark you need to.
Yeah. So the big ones are Rialto, San Marco,
and Stazione.
And Stazione, exactly. Now, if you don't feel like walking, another way to get around Venice is to use the Vaporetto. And this is the Venetian equivalent of a city bus. You can purchase the Vaporetto Daily Pass, which will allow you to catch as many Vaporetti as you like, right? At the time of the recording, a Daily Pass costs 25 euros, and it can be purchased online or at one of the many kiosks located around the Vaporetti. So even still, if you do decide to walk, we strongly recommend you to take the Vaporetto at least once up or down the Grand Canal, because this is the only way that you're going to see some of the most wonderful palaces in Venice, right? Yeah. To do that, just buy a single ticket for the Vaporetto, and you could start from, let's say, the Santa Lucia station and go to San Marco or vice versa. Now, you might be wondering, well, what about the gondolas, right? Can't I take one of those to move around Venice? Well, the answer is not really, because nowadays gondolas are just for sightseeing, and they take tourists on tours in the back areas of the city. Now, there is one exception to that, and we're going to talk about it later. Now, if this is your first time in Venice, you obviously want to take a gondola ride, right? Yeah. Maybe by the Rialto Bridge. If this is the case, you have to keep in mind a few very important things. First of all, a gondola ride is not cheap. They start around 40 euros for a shared ride for a half an hour per person. Secondly, if you want to take a gondola ride, you should definitely book in advance. Otherwise, you'll probably end up waiting in a long line, and if you only have one day in Venice, like, you get the idea, right? And of course, you can scan this QR code to book a shared or private gondola ride, well, the one that suits your needs and budget.
Now, remember that exception we mentioned before? If you just want to take a selfie on a gondola for social media, but you don't want to spend 40 euros, you can go to one of the traghetto along the Grand Canal.
Yes, it's called a traghetto.
Traghetto. One of the most popular ones is the Traghetto di Santa Sofia, which is located really close to the Rialto Bridge. Here you can take a shared gondola ride across the Grand Canal for only 2 euros at the time of recording.
Exactly.
The ride only lasts a few minutes, but it is enough to take a great selfie on a gondola and post it on social media. Or you can take it back and forth a couple of times for 4 euros, 6
there's like
euros. And
10, 12 people on it, right?
Okay, let's move on to our next topic about visiting Venice for one day, and we will talk about the itinerary.
Yes, our one day in Venice itinerary.
Yeah, this itinerary is what we would do if we were in Venice for only one day. It is optimized to allow you to visit the most iconic landmark of Venice without going back and forth between areas. We'll start our itinerary from Santa Lucia train station. We suggest you to start your day early, around 8 a.m., This would be ideal to make your way to St. Mark's Square using the Vaporetto down the Grand Canal.
Yeah, and there won't be too many people at that time.
Exactly. By doing so, you will be able to arrive in St. Mark's just before 9, and you will be able to beat the crowd and see the piazza with way less people. You can start your visit by going to the Doge Palace and admire this amazing palace that was the political center of the Venetian Republic.
I would actually be very happy to live there, actually.
Oh, yeah,
Nice.
who wouldn't? At the palace, you will also be able to walk across the Bridge of Sights and visit the famous Venetian jail, where famous people like Casanova were imprisoned. To visit the palace and the prison, you will need about 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Now, it is imperative that you book the skip the line tickets to visit the palace. Otherwise, you will end up spending most of your day waiting in line to get in the palace. So here's a QR code for you for the skip the line tickets for the palace and St. Mark's Basilica. So you can do both at the same time.
Exactly. And St. Mark's is another one that is famous for its long lines.
Yeah.
Now, right after visiting the Doge Palace, visit St. Mark's, right? They're right next door to each other. The Basilica is, I mean, it's really beautiful. It's something to see. It's got Byzantine gold mosaic tiles practically everywhere. And in the Basilica, you can even admire the tomb of St. Mark's himself. According to the legend, two merchants of Venice in the year 828, they were able to smuggle the bones from the saint from Alexandria of Egypt using a little trick. They hid the bones of the saint in a basket full of pork meat. And because Muslims were not allowed to touch pork meat, they didn't check what was inside the box at the customs office in Alexandria. That way, the remains of the saint arrived in Venice, and St. Mark's became the patron saint of the city. What a nice story, right?
Yes.
Okay, so after visiting St. Mark's Basilica, plan to spend about a half an hour walking around, the stunning St. Mark's Square. You can check out the cafes around the piazza, and don't forget to check out also the clock tower. I mean, this is pretty stunning, where there are two Moors, and they ring the bell every hour.
After in the piazza, start making your way toward the Rialto Bridge. You'll have the opportunity to walk around several calles and walk over a few bridges on your way. The little calles, that again, there are streets in Venice, are filled with shops that sell Murano glasses, Venetian masks, and Italian clothes or Italian souvenirs. The walk should take you about 20 minutes, and you will arrive at the Rialto Bridge around noon or lunchtime.
If you left at 8 on schedule, right?
The Rialto Bridge is one of the 4 bridges that cross the Grand Canal, and it is for sure the most iconic one. On each side of the bridge, you will admire stores that sell jewelry and other luxury items. A few steps away from the bridge, you'll find several places for lunch. In particular, look for places that serve cicchetti, the typical Venetian lunch. There are plenty of these around the Rialto Bridge and the fish market. One of the most famous one and one of our favorite one is called Bar all'Arco, and it's also one of the busiest ones. But it's totally worth it. Cicchetti are little bite-sized crostini pieces with seafood, meat, or vegetable on top. Also, some cicchetti include deep-fried pieces of fish or cheese or meat. The sky's the limit, so try them all. They're very, very good. The best way to enjoy the cicchetti is with a nice ombra.
I was going to say.
What is an ombra, you might ask? Rick, can you explain?
Ombra, well, first of all, ombra in Italian means shade. And back in the day, the wine sellers used to keep their wine stands in the shade to keep the wine fresh. For this reason, people started calling this glass of wine, ombra, because it was sold in the shade. All right, so after lunch and after visiting the fish market, you definitely want to see that. You can walk towards the traghetto, the Santa Sofia, again, where you can take the $2 gondola ride across the Grand Canal. And once you're on the other side of the canal, you can walk through one of the quietest and most authentic areas of Venice, and that's called Canal. Here, you're gonna experience peace and quiet and admire some of the most beautiful canals and bridges. And in the same area, you'll also get to see Venice's Jewish ghetto. And this was the oldest ghetto in Italy, and actually the word ghetto originated in Venice in 1500.
Yes.
The word means foundry in Old Venetian, and in the area there was indeed a foundry. And of course, the ghetto is another area of Venice that is incredibly beautiful and quiet, and walking around here is a total pleasure. Now, from the Jewish ghetto, in a few minutes, you'll be able to reach, again, the Santa Lucia train station. If you still have a couple of hours extra before leaving Venice, we strongly recommend you to take the Vaporetto one more time to Accademia. Here you can walk over another bridge that crosses the Grand Canal. And this is a wooden bridge, and there you'll be able to admire one of the most beautiful views of the Grand Canal. And it's called the Madonna della Salute Church. Actually, this spot is particularly amazing at sunset. And there you can walk back towards the Rialto Bridge, where you might stop for a drink, like a spritz, before heading back to the train station.
Let's move on to our next tip about visiting Venice for one day, and we talk about what to bring with you. The most important thing that you must bring that are very comfortable shoes. And very comfortable walking shoes. In fact, you will have to walk a lot. We will walk 26,000 steps in one day to be able to see everything in the itinerary. So keep this in mind. So comfortable and well broken in shoes are a must.
Yes, previously broken in shoes.
Second, you will need to wear clothes that cover your shoulder and your knees in order to go inside the St. Mark's Basilica or any other church you want to visit. If you are going in the summer, make sure to bring plenty of sunscreen and apply sunscreen.
Use it. Just put it on in the morning.
To avoid that sunburn. A hat is also very good to have to protect yourself from the sun in the summer. Lastly, a small backpack could be a very useful thing to carry with you for all your items that you want to carry. Also, if you plan on walking all day long, a power bank could be a good thing to have to recharge your phone after walking all day and taking photos.
Well, folks, this concludes our video about visiting Venice in one day. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new about Venice. Of course, if you have any questions,
feel free to ask and leave a comment below. We love to hear back from you. Also, let us know how your trip to Venice went once you go. What you liked or what you didn't like. This will inspire us to make more videos like this one.
And of course, if you happen to see us out and about, don't hesitate to say hello. In the meantime, we will see you in our next video.
Ciao.
Ciao.